And that was one of the appealing things when I first moved to New York. They used to have a newspaper like backstage.com where it would list all these comedy shows. And it was like, oh, you could do 5, 6, 7 a night. And that was the appeal of why I wanted to move to New York. I knew LA
Mm,
was, 1 or 2 sets and everything seemed so far out of the way.
right.
So I wrote it down and I was like, oh, I think I can do double what Steve Byrne did.
Welcome to the Johnny Rogers Show.
Thanks for having me,
Of
man.
course. Happy to add to the list of Canadian legends that I got going here. And it's been cool to reach out to people and them want to actually come on and do the podcast.
I'm doing it because I saw Kenny's clips and I was like, I love Kenny. And I was like, if Kenny would do this, then I guess I would. But you're also in Canada, so people do anything.
Yeah, it's
And
true. There's no entertainment tonight here anymore, so I'm the guy.
there's no more Canadian entertainment tonight.
No, they
I was
canceled it.
on it. I thought I made it.
Really? Oh
I had
yeah,
a
well yeah,
publicist.
that's the show.
It was big time. I did a
Yeah.
movie called The Lookout, and I was like, I want to be on Entertainment Tonight, which it would have been unheard of back then. And I was in this movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jeff Daniels.
Oh wow,
So they,
really making it Canadian.
yeah, so they put me on, and I think I went like go-kart riding or something. It was silly, but I was so excited. I was like, I'm on Entertainment Tonight. It
Hell yeah.
was
I
big
saw
time.
too you were doing shows with Holtzman. I messaged you like a while back because you had were using the graphic that I used for his episode, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." He's using the graphic I made of Holtzman because Holtzman has like no good photos of himself. I had to
Yeah.
like take a photo I found on Google and then run it through an AI to make it look better than it was, and then
Okay.
use that for the
Yeah, I
press.
just Googled photos of him, so it's weird that that even came up. Good
Okay,
for
well,
you.
it's because there's nothing there. So that
Yeah.
was so funny. I did the whole podcast with him while he was in some diner, like eating eating lunch or something.
Yeah, Holtzman's hilarious. We did like a little tour together. It was really fun.
He's great. But I
Great.
became like a fan of yours from obviously doing stand up in Toronto, but then further through Gas Digital and all of the shows that you appear on through there. And you came to Ottawa to do a show, and my boss was like, "Oh, me and my friend are gonna go to Yuck Yucks to see a show. It's Aaron Berg. Do you know?"
Hmm.
She didn't even Google, and I was gonna be like, maybe she should Google, and then I went, "Ah, have fun."
Yeah.
I was like, it's gonna be a fun time. Don't worry about it.
And what was the feedback?
She's like, it was interesting.
Oh,
Uh, I think I think she wasn't prepared for your. I think when people go to your shows, they need to be prepared for your comedy.
I guess. I mean, it's just comedy. You know what I
It
mean? Like
is to
just
you, but to
it makes
like,
yeah, but it's
there's
to
such
the
a
audience
wide
too. Like,
range of comedians. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
but it the people laugh. You know what I
for
mean? It's
sure.
like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hysterical. And sure, there'll be people that are like, "Oh my god, oh ah,"
That's what
but
I mean.
but there's I respond to that in real time as it happens. So it's like I don't. I remember Kenny used to say he'd wear walkouts as a badge of honor. Like this school of Sam Kinison type comedy. And I think at first we were like, it was so cool. I remember I walked almost the whole room, and the goal was like to walk the whole room, and you would get a plaque at Yuck Yucks. And I walked almost the whole room, and then now it's like this. I very rarely walk people,
Well,
very
now
rarely.
it's I think it's now we're at a point where like if you didn't look up the person you're going to see, like that's on you. Like
But it happens a lot. I'm,
I
I'm
know,
gonna
which
tell.
is crazy though.
I'm in
Like,
Hartford this Friday, and it's like a last minute. Someone dropped out, so they asked me to
mm,
do it. So it's like, okay, I sold some tickets, but the rest they're gonna paper, and
right.
there's just gonna be people that are like, "Hey, we're going to the Funny Bone at the mall," and
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that. But it
Yeah.
just seems like I don't know. My comedy, I feel like even though it'll offend some people, they're like, "Oh, this is what real comedy is." Like I did a private event in New York for this really rich company, and it was me and Francis Ellis. And I came down, and they were like, "What the?" And it's all these like millionaires and billionaires, and they're like, "This is crazy." And then afterwards, people are like, "Oh, that's what New York comedy's supposed to be."
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see, the response to that.
Well, who was it I had on recently? And I think it was Alex Pavone, and he was talking about how like doing comedy in New York is so different because You're not like Toronto, you're getting mostly local people. It's a tourist city, but it's not
Yeah.
that much of a tourist city. New York, you're getting people from all over the world, plus a New Yorker crowd where their cab driver on the way over could have been the funniest person they ever met.
Yeah.
So your job on stage is like that much harder, which I think is why New York creates so many incredible comedians because the odds are stacked against you almost constantly.
New York's the best city for comedy. People talk about like the LA scene, the Austin scene, which is coming up, but the Austin scene is so young and so divided. There's like
It's
12
also papered.
millionaires.
Yeah.
Well, no, like Rogan's Club, it's selling out all the time. And it's like Austin is a comedy destination, but the comics are so young and they're all trying to get in the Rogan sphere by being edgy. So there's this false sense of edginess to it.
Mm.
And I to bring up Kenny again. I mean, he's a real OG. Like I remember Kenny would reach out to me about bits I'd post. And he'd be like, dude, when these young kids coming up on the Nubian show think they're edgy, I go, you ain't shit. Look at Aaron Berg. So it's a badge of honor coming from that guy.
Yeah, for
How'd you
sure.
get into this? Why are you such a comedy fan?
I've been a comedy fan since I was like 10 because I remember my uncle gave me it was like George
AIDS.
Carlin.
Oh,
He after he gave me AIDS, he gave me a George Carlin DVD and he said this should help. And he gave me a Robin Williams live on Broadway. And I remember watching that and going like, "Holy shit, like you can do this, like that's a thing that people do." And then as I got older, I was like 19, I was in college and there was like an opportunity to do like an open mic and I just
yeah.
jumped on it. So I've been doing comedy since I was 19 and just like
Where
obsessed.
do you live? Ottawa?
I live in Ottawa now. I lived in Toronto up until pandemic and then I just was like I just wanted a change of scene.
What was the pandemic? Could
In
you
Canada.
imagine? I was
I don't know
such a
if
COVID
you were
denier.
you don't the pandemic as you guys call it.
Yeah,
In Canada it fucked everything. I
I
don't know
know.
if you remember that.
It
But
was
yeah,
it was crazy down here too.
but at least
Carlin,
people were like fucking doing shit.
yeah, but it was like so divided, and it took for the states to open. Different states. I was going on the road in Florida, and we were going. The red states.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, did you ever see Carlin live?
No, I didn't get to. No, I never got to see him live.
I went with the guy that used to run the open mic, the amateur night at Yuck Yucks was called Jack Norman, and you've probably heard about him. Have you heard about him talking to other
No.
comics? Jack was a brilliant edgelord comic. At the time, there was no edge. Brilliant writer, way over the edge, and just got relegated to hosting amateur nights because he had a really keen eye for talent, but just couldn't think. He'd drink a lot. He was a little unhinged, so he couldn't really elevate himself to pro status. He didn't want to go on the road. He had
Hmm.
a kid, so he was the gatekeeper at Yuck Yuck's amateur night, and
Oh.
I got in with him, and we were real friendly, and I go, you want to go see Carlin? And he goes, yeah. And we spent, I think, $100. I was so broke. We spent $100, went and saw him at Roy Thompson Hall,
Wow.
and it was awful. It
Really?
was so disappointing.
Oh
He
no.
had this opener that was like this hacky cruise ship act, so
Ah.
clean. And then he went out and he had notes at Roy Thompson Hall. And you're like, it's a 2,000 seater. I spent,
That's
$100.
crazy.
I was broke at the time. So, I'd taken what was going to be my rent money to go watch Carlin to be inspired. And we left and we were like, God, that was not good.
Oh,
And it was near the end of his life. So it kind of makes sense, but it was so disappointing that never meet your heroes type thing. And
yeah. I'm thankful I didn't go see him live
the
almost.
Robin Williams, I'm going to tell you this story. I just feel like I can tell old stories because I miss Canadian comedy a bit.
Yeah.
I'm at the Yuck Yucks. Dylan Mendelsohn was hosting, and in town they were shooting a movie called Man of the Year with Robin Williams and Lewis Black, and it was this political thing. And Mike Wilmot was really good friends with Lewis Black because they're both old,
Yeah.
curmudgeons, both brilliant. And so Wilmot brought Lewis Black by on a Wednesday, and I did a spot. And afterwards, we went to the bar, and I go, "Hey, I'm Aaron." And Lewis goes, I know, I saw your set, and walked away. And I was like, Lewis Black hates me. And then I saw him on a podcast about a year and a half ago, and we caught up, and he was like, I was busting your balls.
I think
But
I sent that to you.
you may have. It was me and Ralph Sutton on the
yes,
Sex,
yes,
Drugs,
yes,
Rock and
yes,
Roll
yes. I
podcast.
was helping him with, I helped Sutton with that for a little bit until, well, that's a whole other story, but
Okay.
I can tell you about that later.
All right.
Um, but
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
then
I remember sending that to you because I had Mike Wilmot on my podcast and he was talking about uh, Lewis Black saying that, and then there was another thing that came up where he said that.
I
Crazy.
learned, remind me to come back to Wilmot.
Yeah,
I learned
yeah.
so much from Wilmot. But then so I'm at the club on a Wednesday, and Dylan Mendelssohn's hosting. He's like, there's an old guy at the back wants to talk to you. And I look back and I see like a big parka, and I'm like, oh, it's fucking Lewis Black. I'm not going over there. I don't fucking like this guy. So I walk by and I'm like, and the guy goes, that was fucking hilarious. And I go, oh, that's not Lewis, but it's Robin Williams. And he goes, that ass eating bit, oh, it tastes like Jägermeister. And I was like, oh my, and I was on cloud nine. And of course,
Yeah.
everybody had these preconceived notions about Robin Williams where they're like, oh, he's going to steal your bit. I'm like, Robin Williams isn't going to take my ass eating bit. But Wilmot, we toured together. We did this thing called Cold Dark January that Howard Wagman at Yuck Yucks would put together. So it was a month for all the dirty comics to work because we
Ah.
wouldn't work all the time. So I started doing it, I think, with maybe Dave Martin as somebody, and then me and Mike Cliff did a tour, 2 tours. And if you've never seen Mike Cliff, there's no video of this guy around. He was
Wow.
brilliant. He had a guitar. He would go on stage. He was this long-haired guy. Everyone figured he spent time in prison, came out, changed his name to Mike Cliff, and he'd have this guitar and he'd just go up and strum it and look at, and he was so laid back and calm, and he'd be like, my uncle keeps touching me, my uncle keeps touching me. And he'd be like, what's the matter, hit a little too close to home for some of you fucking hillbillies? And he had these great jokes about never
Uh,
take hookers camping, their heels will ruin the canoe, and they all seemed like grounded in truth. And he was so good, and I would open for him. And then after the first tour, he said, and this kind of made me a headliner. He goes, I can't follow you. He goes, you got to close these shows. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah. So then the next year, me and Wilmot went on tour, and we were going to do a co-feature. And Wilmot goes, I'm going to be closing these out. And I go, you don't want to swap? He goes, come on, really? And I think he like called the office. He's like, you think he's going to close them out? Are you kidding me? So he hangs up. So of course I get alpha brained about it. And I go, all right. So I went out and just fucking, and Wilmot goes, what the fuck? You got to leave me a little bit of meat on the bone, kid.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I go,
yeah.
you said you want to fucking close. And so
Yeah.
then we would swap them back and forth a little bit, but we had such a great time. And he taught me this thing. I used to do this douchey thing at the end of shows. I'd be like, I'll be selling merch, but instead of going to the back after, I'll be selling it while I'm still on stage. And people would come up and he's like, the stage is a very sacred place. You should not be selling merchandise on
Uh,
stage. So I learned so. Mike Wilmot is hands down one of the funniest people on the planet.
oh, incredible. So just naturally funny guy. When I asked you about the one word for the podcast, that's sort of like the theme that I go with here. What came to mind for you?
Existential.
Existential. I'm gonna write that down.
Better.
Why existential?
It was just something I got an honors degree in philosophy, and it's like the only word that really stuck with me through that philosophy degree. I have a recurring nightmare that I never finished my degree because I think I failed philosophy of feminism or something like that. I did take that course.
That's a
Um,
great special title too.
I failed in the philosophy of
I
feminism.
failed philosophy of feminism.
Oh, that's a
Failing
great
philosophy of feminism.
God, that's a great idea. Um, I just find I don't know in my life now. Okay, so I used to do this podcast years ago that was really funny and really successful. It was called In Hot Water, and then I walked away from it because I didn't want to work with those people anymore.
Mhm.
And I was like, and I reached out, and I got a family to support and stuff, and I reached out to my friends, like Shane Gillis, Andrew Schultz, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I I got bills to pay. I'm walking away from, 6 figures doing this show. What do I do? And everybody unanimously was like, you're going to land on your feet. You're funny. You don't have to
Mm.
worry about it. Just leave that behind. And I did. And I was like, okay, this will take a month or two. And it didn't. And it was like, and I would try other stuff. I'd create new stuff. So I started doing Berg's bass, which I love. But I was like, I'm 52 years old calling people in the middle of Times Square. And it's like, it's fun, but it's also like, I should have done this when I was 20 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was funny, and we had clips going by, but I was like, I don't want to keep doing it. And I also approach this as a journeyman. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the beauty of this is to do different stuff and to create. So then I did, I don't know, I started doing something
Yeah.
else. I don't
People
know what it was.
forget that. They get so
But that,
locked into what they're doing that they forget. Like Kenny was saying that too. He said the advice to his younger self was explore all facets of your art, of the thing you enjoy doing. Look at
yeah.
everything, do all of it, Even Rob Pugh said that to me after a show one time. He was like, be a fucking hand model, be a this, like that have multiple things going on. Like, don't feel
Yeah.
like you have to put all your eggs in one basket of calling people
Yeah.
Times
In the middle of
Square.
Times Square. And it's different because I was also like this really edgy guy, and I was an edgy
Yeah,
podcaster. So it's like I got to keep doing that. And it was like
right.
leaning right, and it was kind of to that pro-Trump crowd. And I was like, I don't want to
You
be
start getting religious.
pigeonholed. Yeah, so many people now.
So much, it's
What's the
crazy.
word? Is it worse to hear people still talk about
Crazy.
COVID or people rant about
Hearing
Hamas?
Dave Smith talk about praying, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, it was.
It's
Yeah,
like, I don't know what you're
I've been
doing, dude.
friends with Dave for years, and I'm like,
I
dude,
respect his politics, but I was like, what?
it's like, come on, we get it,
Yeah.
Hamas, we
Yeah.
get it. Dave was such a brilliant political comedian. I thought he was poised to be the next Bill Maher, and now he's an intellect above anything else. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's still. I was at the stand last night, and they filmed Legion of Skanks there, and I popped my head, and then Ali Sadiq was the guest, and I saw Ali and dapped him. But it's like, okay, and I mean Okerson, Lewis, by the way, it's so funny. I toured with Lewis, and we're friends for. I probably wouldn't be in the United States if it wasn't for Lewis, because he had a
He's
company with Martin O'Keefe. They sponsored me to get my first visa.
wow.
Um,
He's great. Like I
Lewis
cold
is
DM'd him.
hilarious.
I cold DM'd him and being like, "Hey, if you need help with like, because my background is in social media and YouTube, like that's what I did for work." And so I was just like, if you need like advice or anything like that, or you need help with like YouTube pages, and then he brought me in to help with all the Gas 30 specials and like,
Yeah,
gave me that work. And aside from
yeah.
that, incredible dude. Go ahead.
Great business guy, but also so funny. And it's like for years he was getting slack. We're like, your comedy's not as good as your podcast. I've been on the road with Lewis. We spent hours in cars and planes. He makes me laugh so fucking hard. And on stage now he's hitting real hard too. But off stage, Lewis is fucking hilarious. We're going on a plane. I think this one he didn't fly first class. He goes, will you take my bag, put it in first? And I go, no, take your own bag. So this woman goes up to him. She's like, you can't take that as carry-on. He goes, why don't you shut up, you Karen? Just called this woman a Karen getting on the plane. But it was
He's
hilarious.
the most like if you talk to like his friends, they'd probably be like he's the most Karen in a lot of those
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah. He kvetches about a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, the political thing, I was like, I'm gonna lean into that. Yeah, now people like I found God, and it's like, I was like, I need to branch away. So I was like, I'm just gonna do stand up. So I just focused on stand up, and then it's like, you're scraping by. I'm always funny enough. I'm gonna scrape by, and it's like, if you kill, you're undeniable. So even when like everything went woke and COVID happened, I was like, I just need to keep murdering. So even if
Hmm.
DEI takes over comedy, which to a certain extent it does, they still need a guy to close the shows out. So that's always me. um and it's like, there's a couple other guys that can do that in the city. There's maybe like 5 guys that are like power closers. But it's like when David Tell comes up to you and he's like, dude, I can't follow you. Like, can I go first? And it's like, oh, really? And it's not saying David Tell's a king, but it's like what I do is
It's
just
his
more suited
energy.
to
Yeah,
close
yeah.
the show.
It's all
Um,
energy.
and it became existential because I was like, okay, I'm just going to create. So then I wrote a movie and I was like, who would be great to do that? And I reached out to Troy Duffy, who directed Boondock Saints 1 and 2. And when I was in Boondock Saints 2, and I go, take a look at this script. And then all of a sudden, he goes, I got notes. And now me and Troy Duffy are writing a feature film script. Um, so that happened. And then all of a sudden, someone's like, hey, you should have a TV show. Why don't we shoot a pilot? And then I shoot the pilot for that. So stuff starts to happen, but it all happens in its own time. It's this really, it's about being thankful for what you have, being grateful for what you have. And I'm still evolving as a person. So it's like the existentialism comes into everyday life because it's about existing and, being a dad and being a present husband and disagreeing with
Hmm.
my wife constantly and thinking I'm right, she's wrong, and then taking space and going, oh, maybe she's right, or maybe there's, so it's not easy, but it's like it's a beautiful thing that we have, and then you get to take all this shit and hopefully turn it into comedy. And
Yeah.
having that separation from having to try and be this edgy guy, but I still am. I always want to push taboos. I always want to ride the edge because that's the comedy I grew up on. I grew up watching. I grew up watching Rouse and Russell Peters and Jeremy Hotz destroy. So I was like, oh, I want to kill that hard.
Yeah.
And now I do. And then it's like, in terms of the content, it's weird because they'll be like, oh, he's racist. And you're like, no, I'm doing racial jokes.
Hmm.
And people in New York would do write ups like, what is comedy? And they're like, they'll go to Brooklyn and they'll watch some weird they them. Or no, I don't mean
Right.
they're weird because they're they them, but I mean just like an odd they them.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Um, and and then they'll come to New York and be like, now we're in New York in a club. And this woman called me and she's like, I watched you last night. I'm writing an article for blah blah blah. And she goes, why do they laugh so much? Like the things you're saying are awful things. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what comedy is. And
Yeah.
it's subject. And she's like, you called two Asian people patient zero of Wuhan, and they
Fuck.
laughed. And she's like, did you force them to? I go, no, they laughed because it's funny. She's like, don't you
Yeah.
think they went home and felt bad? I'm like, that's not
Oh
on me.
man.
They find it funny in the moment, but this psychoanalyzing of comedy
It's got to
is just,
stop. It's really crazy. And
it
like even
won't.
it won't, but like watching that I think we're like moving in a direction where at least there's some understanding. Like watching that did you watch the Tim Dillon CNN interview?
Yes, I thought it was brilliant.
I thought it was an amazing though that he like put the pressure on them to just release the full interview, never thinking that they were actually going to release it. And it's now the
Yeah.
most viewed thing on their YouTube channel. But
Is it
like
really?
yeah, it's got like over 1 million views or something. It's the
Yeah.
most they barely break like any amount of views on their
Isn't
channel.
that amazing that
It
CNN has dropped
it's
so far?
crazy. It's the passing of that old guard. Like this is going to be the next medium, if anything. I mean, podcast pretty much decided the last election.
Yeah.
Um, but what was crazy was just watching her like not understanding, like just her like, and you could tell it was like coming from a genuine place. Like I always thought that the one side was always being like dumb on purpose about it, like just being offended on purpose, but it
Yeah.
literally it's just that echo chamber of they just don't understand that they're she's like, well, do you feel like you're the new establishment, like you and Rogan? And he goes, if you think Theo Vaughn has more sway than the CIA, the Democratic Party, all these
Yeah.
major celebrities, he's like, you're crazy. Like,
That's
I
just
did,
crazy.
they
That's
have
crazy.
they have
Yeah.
popularity, but
Yeah.
like they're not the new establishment. And then she was acting like comedy is only right wing now, and he's like,
I know. Yeah.
no, it's
Amy
really
Schumer's in her
not. Like,
$15 million townhouse in Brooklyn. I'm sure she's fine. I'll text some of these people if you want me to check in on them for you.
yeah,
Tell them
he's
you're
like,
worried
I
about them.
think they're fine. I think
Yeah.
they're doing quite well,
Yeah.
selling out arenas.
She
Like,
goes, her show got canceled. She's got a new show on Hulu. She's got a movie on
yeah,
Netflix.
yeah, yeah,
Amy
yeah.
Schumer's fine.
Yeah, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna
Yeah.
last for sure. But like going back to existentialism, I think it can be scary if you're thinking about too much about the end of life. and not so much about like the present of what am I going to do today that's going to leave a legacy for like who you are in this point in time. And I think the best example of that is you doing 25 sets. That to me was like, holy shit, what an undertaking you to do 25 sets in it. Like to think, where did that like concept come from? I know that the New York grind and the New York hustle of doing stand up is like how many shows can you get done in a night? And I feel like Mark
Yeah.
Norman's probably one of the people that are up there with like doing 10 shows a night. Like the,
Yeah.
the guy just seems like he just does it constantly. But yeah, where did that concept come from? And like, did someone approach you to film that, or was this
No, I
all
was,
your idea?
once I started, you know, once I started doing spots, and I was like, okay, I got to try and make a living off of spot pay if I'm going to stay in the city. I first moved here years ago. I lived with Christine Von Hagen, who was a Canadian comic, Jen Grant, and Julianne Dion. And they all moved back, or I think Christine moved to Vegas. It was a tough grind. They weren't really getting into the club scene. And they moved out. Then Nathan McIntosh moved in with me, and he's doing really well. And I was like, I can make a living doing spots in the city. And I remember Christine going, "It's impossible. No, you can't." And I was like, "Okay." So when someone tells me that, I'm like, "Of course I can."
Yeah.
And then I was at the point where I was doing 8 or 9 on a Friday or Saturday, and in between, I'm sitting around smoking a cigar, and I was like, I got all this extra time. I'm like, I wonder how many I could do. So I started writing it down. I was like, okay, the old record is 13. Steve Byrne did 13. And I started going through my list. And that was one of the appealing things when I first moved to New York. They used to have a newspaper like backstage.com where it would list all these comedy shows. And I was like, oh, you could do 5, 6, 7 a night. And that was the appeal of why I wanted to move to New York. I knew LA
Mm,
was, 1 or 2 sets and everything seemed so far out of the way.
right.
So I wrote it down and I was like, oh, I think I can do double what Steve Byrne did. My goal was 26. So I started laying it out, and I was in an acting class at the time with this great girl named Aaron Glass, so talented and beautiful. And she's like, dude, I don't even know if she produces anymore. She was working with Morgan Spurlock at the time, who did like Super Size Me and stuff. And I go, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do 25 sets a night if you want to come. And she goes, who's taping that? And I go, no, should I tape it? She goes, yeah. So we reached
You're
out to
just gonna
Matt.
do it just for your
I was
own
just gonna
sake.
do it. I mean, that's where that's I
Yeah.
wasn't even recording sets for years.
Wow.
And Schultz is like, you're sitting on a gold mine. You're doing different stuff every night. Like you
Yeah.
gotta. So I was so late to the game, but it was like, she goes, yeah, you got to record it. So I reached out to my friend Matt O'Dowd, who'd done some stuff with Comedy Central, and he goes, yeah, let's do it. So we went around, shot, and we aimed to do 26. We did 25, and that's how it became 25 sets. And it's like it could probably someone young could probably break it now. Like the Cellar has 4 venues.
Mm.
You got to really be in. You got to really be in at a lot of clubs. Like if Normand wanted to do it, he could do it. I'm sure he wouldn't. And if he did, I'd smash a bottle over his head. Um, but I went to work the next night. I did 25. I was home 4 in the morning. I went back out Sunday night, did more shows because I
Was it,
just had that drive to just keep going.
yeah, was there any point in that where you were like, this is a terrible idea?
No, I just come from like I'm a bodybuilder at heart and I'm back into it now. So it's just you muscle through. You just decide you're gonna do something and you do it. There's no excuses, there's nothing, which is why I have such a hard time relating to other people because they'll be like, "Oh, I got to do this, I got to do that." And I came from that Schwarzenegger mentality, where it's like, I had to do the. I was 3 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia, and someone called from Graz, and they said, "Your father's dead. The funeral's on Tuesday. What are you gonna do?" I said, he's dead. He's gone. There's nothing I can do. I can't be there. I have a contest in 3 weeks, so I can't do
Wow.
it. So it was this real, you just say you're going to do something, you do it. And obviously it gets different as you grow up. Like I can't be like, I'm just going to do that. You got to pick your kid up from school.
Yeah.
Well, she's at school. She's going to stay at school. That's
Yeah,
all that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She'll still be there when I get back.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one picks her up.
there's a definite drive uh some people have, and it's just like you just keep going. This game requires persistence. It requires blinders. Nikki Payne was a great one, said, you got to have blinders on like a horse race,
Oh
because
man.
it's like Shane Gillis is selling out arenas playing with Zach Bryan. And I remember, he used to be like, "Hey, dude, can I get 7 minutes on your show?" And it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Okay, oh,
Yeah,
sure, I'll help this kid out."
you really can't like be paying attention to what anyone else is doing and letting it like affect what you do. And also like going back to you quitting in hot water and then all of this other stuff happening, they were so right about like how you find a way to always land on your feet because had you still kept doing that and you're just maybe in this unhappy place and you're only doing it for the money now, all of these other opportunities might not have even presented themselves to you. Like
Yeah,
Shane blowing up came from him just being himself on a podcast, doing a Chinese accent and getting canceled from SNL. And then it turned out when he goes back to SNL, I can't remember, someone asked him, did you do SNL, like host it and then go, ah man, that really would have been fun? And he was like, it actually all worked out for the best. He goes, I think I would have hated my life had I gotten on SNL and that was just my life now. Like I have to go
yeah,
constantly rehearsal. I'm competing against other people to get sketches in. Now we can just do Gillian Keeves, throw it up on YouTube, get a bunch of plays. He's got a show on Netflix now. He's doing arenas. Like I don't think look at SNL cast. Who does that happen for?
yeah,
It doesn't. Like it you have to be sort of like young and dumb to be on that cast
yeah,
because they just manipulate these kids into saying like whatever they need them to say and then their career doesn't really go anywhere from there. Like you got Mikey Day hosting Is It Cake? Like does he really want to do that? Like you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like at the end of the
I
day,
think
I don't know.
Marcelo's doing well. Marcelo Hernandez, he's doing well on that show, and I think he's touring a lot, and I think he's loving life right now. And I watched him come up. But yeah, the rest of I mean, I don't know. A lot of the guys drop by and do spots. Emil Joaquim or something. And the show's not bad. I'm not one of those guys that's like, I don't watch SNL. It's not funny since 1982. They don't say the N word anymore. But it's, it has its moments. It's a good
Yeah.
show sometimes. And when Shane's on, it's great. And Bargatze's on, it's great. And, it's good. It's still good for comedy.
Bargatze's another one that's like unreal to watch. He's just like opening his own theme park now, and it's all
Is
off.
he?
Yeah, Nateland. Apparently, he's
Where?
in whatever the
Okay,
state
this
that
is
he
nuts.
owns.
I disagree with this vehemently. That could be the next word.
Yeah,
Vehemently. There's a
vehemently.
point where you don't
Yeah.
need this side hustle. No,
Apparently, he's opening a theme
no.
park. You know what
Mark
Aaron
Norman does
Berg's
not need to sell Bodega Cat whiskey. No one needs this
come
stuff.
on, man, you could get a roller coaster named after you.
You don't need that much
Berg's
money.
Brain Buster? Come on.
It's not healthy. The only thing I'm working on right now
Uh,
is my Jewish superhero character.
oh,
And
okay.
I think it's like, I don't know, the Maccabean militarist or something like that. We're working on it. I'm doing a new show now called Modern Day Man with Eastside Dave, who used to be on Ron and Fez.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
nice.
Check it out on YouTube at Modern Day Man Show. We just started last week and it's a great dynamic. But I don't understand it. I don't understand how much money you actually need.
Yeah.
There must be this sense of, I mean, Tim is super rich, super kind, throws the best parties. I took a helicopter to his party in the Hamptons 2 years ago. Me and Lewis and Jay were like, let's take a
Insane.
private jet because it's
Yeah,
Labor
yeah.
Day. The traffic's going to be so bad. So by the time it comes down to it, everybody's out except me. I take my wife and my kid. I'm like, we're making money. Don't worry about it. 6 grand on a helicopter ride. No traffic that day.
Oh,
Helicopter
fuck.
drops us off 10 minutes from his place. So we got to take an Uber so nobody even gets to see us in the helicopter. And
Oh,
then we
that's
go
the
back and they're
worst.
like, oh, the helicopter's broken. We'll send you a car. I go, no. And they go, oh, we got a bigger helicopter, but you got to pay the upgrade fee.
Oh my
6 grand.
God.
Yeah. But his
Rich
parties
people
are great.
scams.
So
Well, it's
rich.
like
I
Bert
don't
Kreischer
understand.
too has like a million things going on at the same
Oh,
time. It's crazy.
It's like with all that money, buy a shirt that stays on.
Yeah, there you go. Buy a shirt that looks like you're shirtless. I don't know. I
I
don't know
don't
why he doesn't
understand
sell
this
that.
crossover, and I'm not a hater, but I don't understand why Burt Kreischer's on stage with Jelly Roll with no shirt. Just saying, I don't get it.
Someone said that recently too, that we're like, okay, so we're all just supposed to love Jelly Roll now all of a sudden. Like he's just ingratiated himself with the comedy scene to the point where it's like, I guess we're all just Jelly Roll fans now.
I'm not. I'm good. I'm out. Zach Bryan, Luke Combs, they got me.
Yeah, yeah. That's so funny. When it comes to your writing, like the way that you write, are you someone that likes to start with, an idea at home, something that you have that you think is funny, and then you kind of hammer it out of like tags that you're going to write for it? Or do you mostly take that idea on stage and try to riff with it and find the funny moments, just like natural instinct, what comes to you?
It's both. It's natural instinct, but the best bits I have, I'll write. So right now, I have three great bits that I'm doing, and one's brand new. One is a short joke. And when I talk about great bits, you talk about like that's what you used to know comics for was their bits, not
Right.
oh that guy's
Not their
Instagram
whiskey.
or their like. And it's insane. Nobody
Yeah.
quotes anyone's bits anymore.
Yeah,
No
it's
one
true.
does.
Maybe
Uh,
Gaffigan.
yeah, but it's like I have one. It's a short joke that's brilliant. I go, my daughter is a girl. It's a 5 word joke.
Yeah.
And it always and it's like it's funny on so many levels.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have one about my kid being bullied, and that's my closer. And now I have a brand new joke on black fatigue, the notion of black fatigue. So I have three great jokes. And then the rest are good. And then there's crowd work, and then there's, elevated thought or inspired in the moment stuff that happens. But three great jokes I feel pretty good about.
I love
Maybe even
that.
four. Maybe
Yeah.
four. Yeah, three great and one really good. But
To always
yeah,
have
I'll
bits that
hammer
you're
out.
excited
So the
about.
black fatigue thing, I had the black fatigue thing. I thought I wrote the joke, and I was like, "Oh, here's the joke," and it's just an L turn joke. And then this morning, I was like, "Oh no, this is what it is," and it's the whole. It's the whole. If you haven't heard the expression black fatigue, it's what they say white people have because they're so exhausted from hearing black people complain or act up. But you need empathy. If you think white people have black fatigue, what do you think black people have?
Hmm.
The answer is a lot of large screen TVs from looting. And that what I thought the joke was. But then I was like, oh no, here's what it is. Videos of themselves fighting on Frontier Airlines, the right to yell in movie theaters, really lonely Father's Days. And now I'm going to list like 5 to 10 things that will make you exhausted from hearing that
yeah.
list. And I'll go,
Yeah.
oh, black fatigue. And that's so now it's come full circle. And it's a whole
Yeah.
joke about the expression and not just a dumb race joke.
Yeah, because the fatigue comes from even just naming all of the
Yeah.
things. Like the
Yeah.
fatigue just turns into
Yeah. Oh,
unlimited
black
cookout
fatigue.
invites and
Yeah.
oh God. Um
Long drives to prisons upstate.
no. I'll wrap on my last question here. The question is essentially, what advice would you give to your younger self? But I like adding a little bit of context to it. I want you to think of you at 15 years old. So who you
Yeah.
were at 15, and the phone rings and it's you now on the other end. And you could give your younger self a piece of advice. It's not going to impact your life at all, but it is a 15-year-old version of you that you're talking to. What advice do you give to your younger self?
Boy, you should have married Stephanie. No, it's a joke that I have. There's no girl named Stephanie. Um, I don't know if I've done anything wrong.
Could be that. It could be nothing.
Get your black belt. When I was 15, I was a brown belt and I just stopped going to Taekwondo.
Oh, that's so close.
I was so close.
Brown belt. I've done karate. Yeah, that's tough. That's a
I was
while.
I was so close. And
Yeah.
it's just it influenced my life in so many ways because there'll be other things where I'm almost there and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel and I'm like, ah, should I stop? And now I don't because I'm like, I didn't get my black belt. So now I'm back. I do Krav Maga. And so my daughter's a junior black belt and she knows that I quit before my black belt. So she won't quit before my black belt. But I would say get your black belt. I think that there's a sense of accomplishment that comes from finishing something when you're younger. And
Mm-hmm.
you just, being this like floating in the wind, just going any direction. I didn't have that discipline back then.
Right. To
Yeah.
just see something all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't have that.
I love that. That's great advice. For people, if they want to see your upcoming shows or just see more videos about you, buy some merch, they can go to aaronberg.com. On Instagram, you're Aaron Berg Comedy. Watch 25 sets on Prime Video, and then go check out Modern Day Man on YouTube. All these links are in the description below.
Brand new.
Aaron,
Very
pleasure.
exciting. I'm
Pleasure
excited.
chatting with
Guys,
you, man.
thanks for having me, man. It was a
Of
pleasure. I hope to see
course.
you soon.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Hit me up next time you're in Ottawa.
You got it.
All right, man. Have a good rest of your day.
You two stay on.